Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesson Known Classics. This is episode number 3494 and Doubleshot 3388. Yeah, roughly 6 more to go to reach episode 3500. Alright, we have a Batman trade, we have a Superman trade. First one is Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. This book, I believe I heard it's basically a sequel to Dark Victory. Yeah, now, Jeff Loeb writes everything in this book, which basically has the 10-issue series, along with the Long Halloween special. So, Jeff Loeb writes everything here, but Tim Sale, he does do the special, but he only does the covers for the main book, because he passed away. And we have various different artists doing every single issue of this book. You have Clip Chain, Mark Carlo, Beck Cohen, Claus Johnson, Dave Johnson, Eric Marno, Ed Russo, Chris Simney, Mal Sawyer, and Bill Sienkiewicz. And they have here on the back, so let's see. And each of the covers is basically like a one poster. So we have this chapter 0. That's basically, this is all focused on Harvey Dent, where we have, I think it's Glenda, I think it is, like some woman breaking out Arkham Asylum. And then we're basically focusing on Calendar Man. Yes, because this is done by by Tim Sale, you can obviously tell the Calendar Man is drawn like this. Yeah, so, and then we see Solomon Grundy here. And then, of course, Harvey reunites with Glenda. Yeah, and he uses Apollo because that was nicknamed because he was described as very handsome. Then we have Robin here. This is obviously after Dark Victory, obviously. And then the whole thing is about a cult that Calendar Man goes through. The stuff with Two-Face and Harvey, and then of course Calendar Man shows up at Two-Face's apartment, and pretty much basically knocks out Glenda. He's like, and then we see, get this, so, and then we see Jim Gordon with, I believe this is Barbara, I think it's his wife, yeah, his wife Barbara, where it's with their young son, James Gordon Jr. He looks like he's about 2, maybe 3-ish, maybe, because he's like a little kid. Because when he made his debut in Long Halloween, actually it was year 1, he was a baby. So then, of course, Jim is visited by Batman and Robin, and also Harvey has smashed half of the bat signal. Yep. And then we see what appears to be Barbara Gordon, which I don't know if they say because the post-plot should restore the fact she's actually Jim Gordon's daughter, biologically not adopted. It's not very clear, so they're basically dressed up for Halloween. Then we have this 2-page black and white sequence. What looks like Glenn's being threatened by Calendar Man. And then, of course, Two-Face makes him like he's one of the Calendar Man's men, but not really. And the whole issue is about taking on Calendar Man. That's literally what this issue 0 is. I think it was probably, it may have been planned for Tim Sale to do the entire series, but because of his passing, he couldn't do it. Probably, I also think because maybe his health was declining, so he just had time to do the covers, but couldn't do the interiors, sadly. First issue interior is done by Ed Russo, which, yeah, it's a different style with Tim Sale. Or at least appreciate though it kept the same tone as Tim Sale. Good job from that. And mostly we see Catwoman here in her purple costume, which is something that the design of this costume here, I think it's an early costume. I think this may have been the first time in years seen in this particular costume for Calvin. Yes. So then, of course, you have Robin hang out with Catwoman, which is interesting. And of course, Halloween goes. Now I have heard a complaint about the title, calling it the Batman Long Halloween, the last Halloween. I've heard critical thinking describe this title just too long of a title. Yeah, so Jim Gordon's son's taken once again. This is the second time, basically. Last time was back in year 1. So basically, I do appreciate the fact that Two-Face is like slowly reforming here, but not fully. So second issue is done by Klaus Johnson. Okay, so yeah, some guys tossed in the river, basically given almost like the expression "sleep with the fishes." So then Rob pays a visit to, well, Calendar Man. And of course, basically, Batman points out, though, like, oh, there's a vacancy. And the vacancy is Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. the Scarecrow. Yep. So basically, Dick should visit Calendar Man. And Batman's here to visit, of all people, the Mad Hatter. Of course. And of course, Catwoman gets bandaged up, of course. Now, there's no hint of the possible relationships yet. And then we see the bat signal fixed, and then the FBI is here. And turns out the handle has got Penguin instead of it. Because Penguin's involved. So Penguin, we see him eating a fish. Because why not? Batman basically goes after him. I love the artwork here for this. It's so good. I'm actually quite proud of the fact that Klaus Johnson basically got a chance to do this book, because I think he may have been, like, of all the artists to work in this book, he's one of the, I think he was the inker of year 1, so I at least got to appreciate the fact that that I don't know if it was Tim Sale or Jeff Lowe picked this artist, but good job. You see, and then Oswald gets shot, of course, not the first time he's been shot, he always been shot. So then, of course, he's left for dead, but not dead. And then the third issue is drawn by Mark Carlero, where somebody dressed as Batman is going after the Riddler. Yes, the Riddler. Tim Sale, when he drew the Riddler, he drew him as a short man. Not sure why. He had a thing for that. Also, he had a thing for, I think it was Scarecrow speaking in rhymes. Well, also Joker had these big teeth. Yeah, he loved doing that for Joker. Even though they drew Joker maybe like 2 times. So you could probably assume, because basically you have the classic villains period in Long Halloween, which takes place not long after the events of year 1. Once again, of course, basically Robin visits Calendar Man, not going to much info of him. And then Catwoman proceeds to talk to him. Interesting how they draw Catwoman here, where she is much taller than Dick. But did you know, in pre-Flashpoint, Dick actually once made out with Catwoman? Yes, seriously. It was during a shooting. The thing is, they're being shot at by some gangsters, and Catwoman thought it would be a good idea to make out with basically the man who was sort of, in a way, the adopted son of Batman. Because, why not? It didn't go anywhere, per se. They didn't sleep together. They just made out. And from what I can tell, she's the one that she had the kiss, not Dick. Despite the fact he also had one night stand with a huntress. Yes, seriously. And he did the same thing in the Nightwing book. He also had one night stand with her in that book, because that was due to the built-up sexual tension these two have had since the Grayson book. And then she punched him basically for being weak. Right after they had, like, I would say not while they're in bed. I think it was like right after they got dressed that she called him weak afterwards. And this is after these two had sex. Yes, seriously. So Jack Glenn trying to get his son back, but followed by the pair. the Falcons. And then we have Cliff Chang doing issue 4. Interesting. So the Falcons are here. And then, of course, basically, Batman's injured, but look how he's healed up. And then Solomon Grundy comes in. Yeah, because, of course, they positive in the thing. I think it was in issue 2, I think it was. So, issue 2. So he's back here, and, of course, they bandaged up Batman. And then, of course, while Robin still talks to Counterman like he is Hannibal Lecter from the Silence of the Lambs, Catwoman once again basically shows up again. They get into a fight. He hits her leg, but doesn't do anything. By the way, he hits his baton with the injured leg. Now, I should point out, though, that this is something I think a lot of people, if they read this book, like, Dick never had a baton. That is a Tim weapon. I mean, also, he's got pants. Despite the fact if anybody's ever read Dark Victory, he had the short shorts. Yes, because for some weird reason, artists nowadays do not want to draw him the short shorts. They refuse to. They rather draw him wearing pants, despite the fact he wasn't the first Robin to do the pants thing. That was Tim. Yeah. It's like, it's one of those cases, DC, now, I don't know if this, of course, it's like DC was trying for years to raise Tim Drake because Chuck Dixon dared to do a good job writing him, but I guess that's been thrown out the window due to the fact that they're finally getting rid of the whole buy stuff. Thank God for that. And of course, Glinda basically then Somnus once again smashes the bat signal after he frees Glinda. And then of course Dick brings Catwoman to the Batcave. By the way, not blindfolded, mind you. Oh no. She was brought to the Batcave because she was unconscious. Though of course, I think of course basically call him like a little bastard. Yes, I wonder if basically maybe Catwoman may have thought Dick may have actually took the time while she was unconscious to take off her costume. Nope. Yeah. Yeah, and then of course brings Catwoman there because they need Catwoman to resuscitate Batman. And it works. And then of course Batman's like, hey, right up here. Let me shower and change my clothes. Robin, get her a blindfold. I'll be waiting in the car. Thank you, Alfred. Yep. And of course they're confronted at this, looks like this house. And they're confronted by, of all people, the Joker. Yes, the Joker, who apparently has taken the time to get what looks to be Mr. Freeze's gun, Mad Hatter's hat, a whip I think was Catwoman's, and the Riddler's staff, and also a leaf Lulu, which I'm sure that's Ivy's. By the way, next to by Bill Sienkiewicz. You're probably thinking, yeah, and by the way, they're Arkham Asylum all places. Yes, Arkham Asylum. I thought it was a random house. Oh no. Based on the artwork, I couldn't tell if this even was Arkham Asylum, unless of course you squint at it. Yeah, and then of course Batman fights Joker, because of course he does, and then of course... Now the whole thing with Jim B with Barbara Gordon is basically his first wife. It's interesting given the fact that after year 1 she left him to go to Chicago. And also Sarah Essen transferred to New York despite the fact that he had a very brief affair with her. Apparently, like, I think the year that she forgave him or something, I'm not sure. It's not really explained here. So, we're paying for our Coney. That's not. You don't understand. It's not how Gotham City works. It's how the FBI works. Hey, it's Valentine's Day. Go home. See the wife, Barbara. And then, of course, the Bat Signal's fixed. Yeah, smashed twice. First by Two-Face, then by Salma Grundy. Now it's fixed again. Okay, and then we have this Mark of Zorro recreation from the kind of partial retelling of the origin of Batman, where it looks like we have Thomas Martha Wayne dressed up as Batman, Catwoman, and Bruce dressed up as Robin. Yeah, because we had to recreate this particular shooting. Because why not? And now apparently that Barbara is leaving him. Apparently now he's commissioner. So then, like, agents Sullivan, Edwards was dead. Mario's disappeared. At least you're caught, Joker. Is this the last of them? Hardly. Calendar Man, Ivy, Freeze, there's more. I know something. And then he's shoved into a cell by, of all people, Batman. Because of course he will. So I'm guessing it's probably been 2 or 3 years since the events of Dark Victory, because some has passed by, and then for some weird reason, I'm not sure why, where Harvey is questioning, like, why are you asking Glenn what she's doing? And then the jump to issue 6, where it's Enrico Marti on the issue. And, of course, Glenn has asked what she's doing there. Of course, obviously Harvey's dead. And then she proceeds to take off her belt and whack him in the face. And then proceeds to jump on his back and try to strangle to get back her husband. Grundy is there, not really doing anything, until he says, Solomon. And then Grundy pulls him off. Now, Grundy, for some reason, is depicted here with a beer belly, which is weird because and also his clothes torn up. Normally, he's usually like in a suit. So, then he's kicked out. And then we have something a little different. And then, of course, Amanda Waller shows up. Oh, boy. Amanda Waller. Now, this is probably before she took charge of Suicide Squad. This is probably the explanation of how Batman even knows Amanda Waller, because these two know each other for years. Heck, even in brief Flashpoint, they two knew each other. Yeah, so the first these two ever interacted was in one issue of Suicide Squad. Yeah. Mario Falcone, if I remember correctly, I think he was the Holiday Killer. No, he wasn't a Holiday Killer. I think he was one of them anyways. His sister was also one too. Though she actually, and this is really weird, in the Dark Victory book, Harvey dated Carmen Falcone's daughter, and then she was injured by Two-Face, and then the injury was faked, and now he's back with Glenda. It's really confusing. And then, of course, mention about Poison Ivy. Yeah, and then, of course, basically, you have Catwoman break into a safe. Curious. And curiouser. And I'm sure probably the artist did this on purpose, where you have Batman staring at Catwoman's rear end. Yeah. You look at this panel. What is he looking at? He's looking at Catwoman's face? No, he's looking at her butt. Because, of course, he is. And they chat for a while, but that doesn't attack him. It's like, touch his chest. But takes a painting and started while I was in Rome. When it was basically, there's no editor's notes here, but I think the editor should have basically put it here. It started when I was in Rome. Okay, that is referencing the Catwoman When in Rome miniseries. Yes. Much for Holiday, and then Two-Face and his goons deal with Mr. Freeze's goons, which is interesting. Freeze is never really very rarely picked up with goons. Very rarely ever is. And then, of course, basically, we just deal with Two-Face, Mr. Freeze here, because of course we do. And then, Dick is shot. And then, of course, basically, it's like... And then, of course, Poison Ivy shows up at the end of issue number 6. Yep. And then move on to issue 7, where Dick is basically injured from being shot from last issue. Though he has a fight with Batman. It's a little sparring match. And then, of course, basically, it's like, baby, discuss this. And rips off the thing. Newsflash, Bruce, I'm healed. Wax in the face. And going out. Dude, no, yeah, homework. Find this holiday. I want to make sure Mario Falcone's all the time. Be a detective. Okay. Then he talks to... Then we cut to Commissioner Gordon, who is talking to a woman named Lopez. Somebody probably knows. I think this was the first time she appeared because I do not remember this woman ever appearing before. It's like maybe she was a detective for the GCPD. Maybe because she never appeared in any other Batman stories I could think of. This probably was the appearance. Discussing Catwoman here. And then, of course, Ivy. And then, of course, then Batman comes in to search to the skylight because, of course, he would. And then Catwoman slices his bat. It's like, listen to me. They're like, this isn't you. And of course, she's under mind control because of Ivy. And then, of course, she basically tackles her with a bunch of money. And he's like, you would not thank me for this. And then he proceeded to cut open the back of her costume. You probably think, is Batman by the stripper naked? No. Apparently, there's a plant on Catwoman's back. And then he proceeds to remove it. And that somehow cures her. It's like, how long had him? Too long. He needs to be in hospital. Just make sure it's not Arkham. Why not? You came for Falcone. Take it as a win. Water. Yep. And then Ivy is shot by some random person. Yes, Ivy is shot. They leave 2 roses. A gun is dropped. And it turns out the person who shot her is Calendar Man. And then he is shot at by someone else in a hat. Who is it? Don't know. Looks like that, well... Then Ivy is found. And there's like 2 casings. And of course, Catwoman still has her back opened up. Probably because basically coming after her back was up by Batman. Like, I was expecting to meet my son, not you, Selena. Life is full of achievement, Mrs. Falcone. Sister Lisa. And takes out her sunglasses. Perfora, don't believe you're none. Any more you're blind. We've been in Rome. Of course, mentioning Rome again, and once again, not putting editorials about the Winter Rome miniseries. And then we see, looks like to be, it's like Mother's Day, where it looks like that Dick is at his parents' graves. And then issue 8 is Becky Cohen, who actually, I believe she actually was the first female artist to draw Batman, if I remember correctly, and she also has written some Bat books. She was one of the writers of Gotham Academy, and she was the writer of Black Canary, the most recent Black Canary book, the one that came out several years ago, and she was the writer of Batgirl taking over after Gail Simone. So, yeah. So I'm going to cover. You think he's focus issue? We're about to find out and see. So we see that where Cowpie is around, and he's like eating in his cell, eating fish, and then Gordon hits him with a bucket. Yep. It's like, nothing. Who'll make us even? You kidnapped my son, broke my family. You're going to tell me who hired you. I will never say. The name. Dent. I mean, Two-Face. How are you? Hey. No. Glenda Dent. Yeah. So, it turns out the person in the hat who shot off Counterman's hat was Two-Face. So, yeah, it looks like that Glenda is just as crazy as Harvey. So they go to the Falcone mansion, which apparently is in ruins. Yes, it was partially destroyed probably because of events of the original Long Halloween story. And we see somebody locked up on the wall. It turns out it's frickin' Solomon Grundy, who's now got a frickin' shirt on. Yep, and then of course we have Gordon confronting him, and of course Batman deals with him. Now here is the one pet peeve I have about Grundy. Batman writers love recruiting Grundy, despite the fact he is not a Batman villain. He is a villain of Alan Scott, the Green Lantern. And yet Batman writers, at least actually mostly DC writers, keep forgetting that. Yep. I've been going for like a half hour. I should probably order this up here. So, yeah, but it's a lot to discuss this book. So, and then we have where Louise basically is talking to her son, Mario, who I believe was one of the killers. I think it was the killer of Long Halloween. Now I talked back, that was his sister. And she's dead. And then we see a flashback of Carmine Falcone, who's got the scar from the events of Year 1. Chris Sammy does issue 9. Which, great choice, because I love Chris Sammy's artwork. Here's a sample of the man's artwork. It is so good. I love what he does with this book. I think he should do more Batman books. I think he should. And it's like, yeah, then... Now, here's the thing. Apparently Catwoman has fixed her costume. And then Batman used his grappling gun. Yes. No. Apparently Chris Samney based upon the animated series with his Gatling gun. So... Then she gets cut off, and they both land on a heart-shaped bed through a skylight. Okay. And then, like, you know who Harvey is. And, yeah. So then we have Two-Face look at all these villains, which villains are Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, Counterman, Joker, two of them, Mad Hatter, Scarecrow, which for some reason they give him the Hangman's Noose, and Ivy. Is it Joker? No, it's not Joker. And then the course basically where you have Slane confronting Glinda. Yes, so apparently Glinda is responsible for all the stuff happening in this book. Yes, Glinda. Like, he knows us and the baby. So, finally she was Meto Iskira. So, yeah, all about Two-Face, because we gotta push Two-Face here. So, we just kind of wrap this stuff really quickly. Yes, it is, Harvey. Yes, it is, Harvey. You've been betrayed. Yep, he's betrayed by his own wife. Yep, so, yeah, Glinda's put in Arkham Asylum. Batman has a chat with Catwoman. Dick has a talk with Commissioner Gordon. And says, we believe in Gotham City. And that's it. Wow, yeah, it took 30 minutes, about a 10-issue book. This book is awesome. Yes, excellent job with this book. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Alright, so, let's talk about this book here. We have... Absolute Batman Superman Volume 2, Son of the Demon. Written by Jason, art by Rafael Sabado and Carmen D'Agamacio and Figure Uso. So mostly put for this book, by the way, book collects issue 7 to 14 of the series, where with this book they create another Brainiac. Yes, because focus on a lot of Brainiac throughout this whole book, like who is Superman. Of course, we have. By the way, the Prime Brainiac. Yeah, it looks like the one who's the main one here. He looks like he's partially inspired by the John Byrne design. The one from Superman Brainiac storyline. So we have more Brainiacs, and he's like going that whole like issue set was all about it. And turns out basically we have to deal with the Peacemaker. And it's like Death the Oppressors and the Lazarus headquarters. Now, it was revealed at the end of the last trade that the guy who runs Lazarus is, in fact, of all people, Ra's al Ghul. And Talia does pop up in this book, which is kind of interesting. And then we have Peacemaker, the main one, Christopher Smith, pop up here. Yeah. So, Superman confronting the Peacemakers is like a lot of conversation with the Epstein universe, and of course, Lois is arrested by the Peacemakers. By issue 8. Issue 9, of course, the Omega symbol, and of course, we have him, Superman hit with a mother box. And then, of course, basically, process like, then we have Ra's al Ghul. It's like, you want to answer my question, like, who am I and why am I here? You're Ra's al Ghul, reclusive founder and CEO of Lazarus Corp. Yesterday's public? Of course he doesn't. Despite my sharing Lazarus, I am not being fired. I'm not going to jail. I will disappear one of your oil wells. I'm sure you do those options because I'm allowed to quit. You're here to remind me that I work for Lazarus, work for you, and there's work to be done. Brilliant. Call me. I have no idea. You have no idea how the world's changed, Ross, because you haven't met him yet. Yeah. So, and then of course she threatens Roz with a knife. It's like, yeah. And then of course Superman deals with a bunch of robots. Peacemaker ones work with Jim Olsen. And then we see Superman seeing a bunch of people getting hanged randomly, because why not? And yeah, do the whole Mega Men stuff. No, it's not dealing with the alien Mega Men, it's more deal with Darkseid. And then we have Brainiac just being a loose antagonist. It is interesting the fact that Ra's is here, given that he's a Batman villain. And of course, they think Superman is the son of Ra's. It really isn't. So this guy who was fighting was actually his son. And then, of course, basically, then we have Talia make her debut. Yes, Talia al Ghul in the Absolute Universe. And we have more stuff with Brainiac. Of course, they capture Superman. Hi, Penelope.
Hi.
Is that Toothless I see in your shirt?
Yes.
Eating your favorite popsicle?
It is. Can I play video games?
Yes. So, lots more fighting. Oh, more Talia, more Brainiacs. Of course, Jenna Ross is here. Be right back. Gotta turn on the TV. Alright.
I'm on part 3.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Penelope.
Hi.
You get a pop?
Mhm.
Good. There you go, Penelope. Now you can resume.
Wait, what do I hit?
X. There you go. Anyways, so meanwhile, though, back to this. So Superman gets a flashback when his parents died, and Of course, actually, he's still alive. They're threatened, but they're not dead yet. And then, of course, Superman confronts Brainiac. Things get out of there, and then, of course, move on to 12. Yes, 12. So, he's like hiding in the Philippines. And then, once again, confronted about the pacemakers. And then, him yelling, and of course, then he just makes his own solitude, his mini force of solitude, doesn't really go anywhere, it just heals him up. And, of course, Lois is still looking for him. And then, of course, we have more robots merging on Kansas, Smallville, and Superman goes to confront the Lazarus Corps and has a big, massive brawl. It's like, and of course, then we have a flashback to some people before they got killed, and yeah. Then Roz basically steps in. Yeah, now we have Roz versus Superman. Roz is actually taller than he is in the main universe. Yes, he has a kryptonite sword, stabs Superman. He's trying to kill him. He's like doing his whole normal thing of like shedding his shirt and basically trying to fight Superman with a sword. He's Superman doesn't have a sword, and it's a massive fight. And Roz is taken away. Yes, he is arrested by resistance fighters, and he's basically dropped to Pakistan. Like, this was murder for 23 people in these streets. Roz goes by, but Lazarus carried in his direct order. His name was Roz Lagul. We must see each chance of his crimes. Thank you, we will. But tell us, stranger, who you think gives us? Who are you? And he doesn't have a symbol there. All rank confirmed. Of course, yeah, he takes down, and of course, they have senior living. And apparently, Martha Kent has passed away peacefully. And that's it. It's a pretty good book overall. I'll give the book roughly 9 out of 10. Okay, so that is pretty much it for today's video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Next up we have is Adolescent Bookworm. Okay, next video. Bye.